Alright, we're back to the scripting part. Remember, I have a test map bundle extracted on my drive, so I can find the folder where the script is after the initial export, which is down here, test map XML. Usually that file is completely blank. The part I'm showing you right now is already filled in. This thing is in the map, but in the script, but all this, which is all we need to do, the spawn and activation of the things I just put in the map, is not in there. Now there are multiple elements here. Let's explain what's going on. Right up here on top is a definition of the area I created, the trigger area. Trigger area is called Area 1. The area name is Area 010. And what this part does is the type of area it is. I never really changed that because 99% of the time I've used MP players, meaning multiplayer players walking into it will cause something. You can actually have the AI walk in there. I forgot exactly what it is. I could look it up. If you want a vehicle to walk in here, I think it's called group equal vehicle. So if a panner drives through something, you can trigger like a plane coming in to strike it or something like that. So there are multiple things you can do with these triggers. Most of the time it is when a multiplayer walks in, it'll check every third of a second, so it instantly happens. You can change this to make it almost a randomizer. If you put like a 15 in here, and it's a small area, people could walk through an area, and sometimes it will hit it, sometimes it will not. So that's a kind of an artificial randomizer option. Most of the time, again, check real frequently so that stuff that you plan on happening will actually happen. Condition is how many of these multiplayers have to be in that zone. And if it's one, obviously it'll happen every time. If it's more than one, I use that for my randomizer, for my difficulty switch of the maps. You can have things happen only if 7 or 11 players are in a particular area. You can also use it as a randomizer if it's a part of a map where, say, 3-4 people need to be in an area before you spawn a tank or something like that. So you could be kind of a difficulty check mid-map. Say if 10 people on this large zone, you know, there's still a heavy troop coming, so Cornelio is going to mobilize more. I've never done that, but it's a possibility. The one risk with that is if you do it later in the map, you may have people walk through separately and already be way ahead of the crowd, and then suddenly the crowd comes in and something triggers in front of the crowd, but individuals only walk through and maybe have a tank fall on their head. So that's a risk of using those switches as a randomizer trigger or whatever. But for the basics, this is all you need. Area 10, group name 10, whatever you call these areas needs to be doubled up. Why? There's never a different name and area name here. Rest stays pretty much the same for just about everything. On my maps there's like 30 of these things usually listed. They're almost all identical except for the number here in the back of area. What happens here is it's a trigger definition. It tells the game what to do if the trigger that's been defined up there actually gets hit. In this case, it has to have a name. Each trigger has a name. This is what you call it. You can call it trigger 1, whatever. I just name it after each of the events that I'm going to be starting, so I keep track of what belongs to what. If you use one of my scripts as a starting point, you're going to have these things named always very much like this. Once means these things don't repeatedly happen. I have a few triggers on my maps where enemies respawn multiple times. That's a different type of trigger, and you would put a number value in here, but it's usually once, which makes sure that whatever happens at one of your events only happens once and not when the next soldier walks in again. Sometimes I have these double pan art spawns. That might be a bug in one of these parts of the maps and older maps. Again, don't change trigger. Again, unit and area up here, the area defined, area name given to the trigger. Okay, if this area gets walked into by a single guy, that unit, what do? You activate, you go to this event equal activate wave 010. That's the name of the event, which I have down here. But there's always the start game thing first, and what I do in the start game, so anyway, up here we define the area, we say what the trigger does if you do walk into it, and that means jump to this event and do what's in the event. And in this event, which is always at the beginning of the map, you actually activate the area. These areas And you've learned that from playing many missions where I said, oh, you bypass the area, nothing will spawn anymore. Well, that's because this activation didn't happen. Now, if you want to make sure they always happen, these areas, you just put them all at the beginning of the map. Now, on a small map, you can easily do that. On a map that has, say, 40, 50 triggers, you're going to bog down the server and not cascading these and having one element, one trigger the next. So I usually have the first one here anyway, or the first couple, depending on difficulty and pan hearts and whatever. But in most more difficult maps, that's all there is. On an easy map, you can put 15, 20 in there without a real big hit. You just activate them all. The server can easily handle that. So you would activate all your triggers that you want live on the entire map once and forget about them. So that's what start game is. In most of my maps, I do a lot of the shuffling of difficulties. There's a lot of script stuff happening that, things like the helicopters get spawned, but you don't want to do things that shouldn't happen before a soldier is actually on the map. So the helicopters can sit there. Actually, in my case, the helicopters come later. But not much happens in the start game event. On a couple older maps, I've seen a lot of stuff happening there where people just do the entire map and that's it. But I break it down into multiple stages. That keeps the maps running a little more smoothly. Here's now that event that will make everything happen. I always use pretty much the random group command. That type of element. You can use an activate group, and that's a different syntax, but you're giving up the randomization already. Plus you can be 100% on the randomizer, like in the second line here. I say activate random group, group equal area MG01, remember that is the Mark 19. And I give it a 100% chance to happen. There's only one element in this event, and that means it happens guaranteed, 100. The game will always pick a number out of 1 through 100 in the random group command, and if you say 100, it means anything between 1 and 100 will make this event happen. And I shouldn't make it happen 10 seconds down the road, but 1, otherwise you'll see that guy spawn when you come around the building. Let's do the same thing here, or 2 seconds, so they don't happen exactly the same time. Now the second one I set to 50, which means half the time it'll happen. And the third command up here I had at 75%, so most of the time you're going to have that group of soldiers I put in front of the building actually spawn. And the last line is where I turn off area 010 checking. I deactivate what I activated in the start game because the event has happened. We absolutely don't need to watch that area anymore because it'll only happen once, as we've defined up here. Now you probably have to listen to this whole thing a couple more times and do this once in a while for yourself and copy down the text that I have here, like this command. Activate random group. I mean, the syntax is very much important. One typo and nothing happens. It has to be exact. After a while you start learning, okay, so this is the only thing I edit, and the chance stuff I edit. Sometimes you can have multiple groups but I'll do that in a different video where I show you how to alternate between 4 different spawns with the same command. Here I just have spawn or no spawn, guaranteed spawn here, 50% spawn, or 3 out of 4 here. The other event is a non-spawn. So in the worst case, in the easiest case, we're going to have 1 MG spawn, the Mark 19, even though it's called MG01. That's just because I've always used the same wording. I do that so I don't have to remember at some point, now what did I call that thing? I always stay with a numbering scheme and the same type of name for the same type of element. That way I can recycle my maps and I know that the first one is 01, the second one is 02, and it doesn't matter what type it is. I just name the things that way and that's good enough. Alright, so the next step would be to bundle this. Don't have much time here anymore, but file, save what we did. Oh yeah, and I put the number 5 in here because we only have 5 soldiers on here. This line down here, enemies to kill, always part of the script. You put in your maximum guess or exact count of enemies on the map, and then the post-game summary of how many guys were shot off how many guys is going to be accurate. Alright, so let's stop this recording and then I'll show you how to rebundle and test this thing.